Alright guys, straight away to the military map, and we have some of the update. Russians are trying to reach Ukrainian positions and more territory with their mid-wave assaults or attacks. I used the data from MyCoSense3 Analytic, and he confirms everything of that with actual drone images. For example, this Russian tank is over here, geolocated and already confirmed by Ukrainian side. So Russian tank destroyed by 2 Ukrainian FPV drones. Sometimes 2 drones is enough, sometimes 1, but it's very rare case. Usually at least 3 are needed to kaput the tank entirely. So 1 more Russian mid-wave was stopped there. Also Russians lost 1 more tank on the way to Nadivka, and here we have the image of it. The classical video from my guard with all of the confirmation of those tanks and more of the Russian assaults, which were stopped mostly by Ukrainian FPV drones. Well, probably I'm gonna record 1 more video reviewing actual images from the front lines, but I cannot post that stuff on YouTube. Usually I use Rumble for that. I understand that this platform is under the question, but it has low censorship. So I can post whatever I want without any risks. By the way, my friends, hello and welcome. My name is Dennis, and this is the latest update from Ukraine. Let's go. And before we continue reviewing the front lines and the possible positives and negatives for Ukraine, let me tell you about other important news, because today we even have those in the major news of the ground news platform. Right in a daily briefing, so Zelensky offers to resign for NATO membership as United States and Russia advance peace talks. While Ukraine itself is also interested a lot in the peace talks and ceasefire, because Russia still has the advantage on the front line, so it's not interest of Ukraine to continue this war, really, but Ukraine insists on security guarantees. And here Zelensky says that, okay, if Donald Trump wants me to quit, I will quit, just take Ukraine into NATO, and I'll do it. And definitely Zelensky today said about it in his press conference. We're gonna review that a little later. And now I just want to tell you about this site. Guys, it's just fantastic. They even have a dedicated chapter for Ukrainian war, so you may click on it, and here you have latest news relative to Ukraine. But analyzing those news, you can see that America is involved, so some of the guys are telling me, Dennis, don't go for United States politics or something, but guys, we have to review it because it influences Ukraine directly. Because first of all, Ukraine is very dependent on the military support from the United States. And guys, I highly recommend you to subscribe for the ground news. Use my personal link ground.news/Dennis, and that is how you also support my channel. So let's click on this article and check it out. Actually, many of the news sources report about it. 207, it's crazy. As you can see, the news are based on high factuality, and if we check out the map, the news were coming also from Ukraine, United States, Canada, Europe. So everyone is speaking about today's conference of Zelensky. Well, actually, it wasn't just Zelensky. There were many of the Ukrainian officials and military represented on this big conference, probably dedicated to the 3rd anniversary of this full-scale war. So here on the left you can check out all of the articles, you can click more and find out what you really need. I usually choose the articles with high factuality and more or less independent. But for today, let's check out Meduza, it's the Russian opposition source. And definitely the same press conference, Zelensky contested Donald Trump's claim that United States has spent $350 billion aid for Ukraine and argued that figure is closer to $100 billion. And also at the same press conference, Zelensky said that 4% rating is obviously fake for Ukrainian president, so Donald Trump takes it from the Russian propaganda clearly. And today I'm going to provide you with more evidence showing that United States administration, White House administration, is clearly working on Russia right now, unfortunately for the global democracy. But we'll have also some of the good news, especially from Europe, especially from Germany. Also guys, for your information, Ground News has an awesome application for any sort of the mobile device, Android or iOS. Why do I like it? Well, because it keeps me updated almost everywhere. Even in the public transport, I check out the recent news about Ukraine, and later on I deliver those to you on this channel. And about Russia today, I think it's not presented there on the app any longer because it went under the sanctions. That's why I check media services like, for example, Medusa, but anyways, application of the ground news is very, very useful. And guys, again, I highly recommend to check out my personal link. It's ground.news/Dennis, where you may find the ground news, and that is how you also support the job that I do here on YouTube channel, and you also support fantastic team of ground news because it's not the big media corporation. They do awesome job, but they rely on our subscriptions. Visit their website or download their application. Use also my promo code Dennis to have 40% discount of the Vantage plan. That plan is awesome because you'll have the access for all of the features of the ground news. And ground news, thank you so much for sponsoring this video. You are awesome. And now guys, for us it's step by step. We're gonna review front lines and later on return to political news because we have lots of the stuff to speak about. So from what I saw, and Magyar helps me a lot to analyze also drone images, Russians performed several of the mid-wave strikes in this direction. It's still Pokrovsk region in general, but Russians failed to assault towards Pokrovsk. There Ukraine took the advantage. And you know guys, from what I see, the front lines are more or less stabilized for the last months, I mean in February. Well, actually the only place where Ukraine was forced to leave positions is Ulakli, and it happened for many days. Before, like in December, Ukraine was leaving 2-3 villages sometimes per day. By the time Russians expanded in this particular area. Moreover, for the last months, Ukraine took initiative, as I say to you, in many regions of the Pokrovsk direction, gaining the ground in Peshana. Russians tried to counterattack, but it didn't work for them, and also Ukraine got the ground here in Lysivka, in Dachinske. Ukraine also pushed Russians from the north in Kotlina and also advanced towards this place, causing Russian losses. But I cannot show this video on YouTube, sorry. Well, at the same time, Ukraine also has losses, but usually you have more losses if you are attacking like Ukraine does in Pokrovsk direction. And what is also interesting, that even in Solidovo, which is more than 10 kilometers away from Ukrainian positions in Lysivka, there Russians have losses. They use this town as their hub center, but still it's not safe. And that's what I got exactly from that location. It's not a video game or something. This is a drone camera video, a thermal camera or night vision, how to call it. Russians were keeping their vehicles in some of the industrial area under this cover, but Ukrainian drone managed to get inside, causing some of the losses among Russian transport. At least one Russian BMP is confirmed to be perished. And later on we have the confirmation that other drones visited this place. Probably it's the local thermal power plant, something like that. What is also kind of interesting for our general front lines review, you see at what scale we are judging the situation. Some of the factories, particular units of BMPs and tanks, small villages, everything of that tells that the Russian army is exhausted. They cannot assault as before, like for example they did 3 years ago, taking the vast territories. Here their task is very small. They are unable to conquer entire Ukraine with the army they have right now. So I wouldn't say that Russian army is winning, even though in many of the cases Ukrainian army have to leave positions and withdraw, but it's because Ukrainian army wants to save the resources for other battles. Well, we also have the report about one more useless or several useless attacks happened in Velika Novosilka. You see how many of the Russian vehicles were lost there, but pardon, I wouldn't call this attack completely useless because Russians managed to get this settlement, a small village with 3 of the streets under control. Was it worth those losses? Well, it's a big question which Russian commanders should ask their soldiers. And yes, definitely we have the confirmation that Russians lost 9 out of 10 vehicles, mostly MTLBs and BMPs. The rest of the Russian forces, so infantry, was caputed during the day. Nevertheless, some of the Russian with the Soviet flag was spotted in the village I just showed you. Well, sometimes Russians also have specific mission with the flags to go to some of the village which is still still in a gray zone, and under the huge risk put the flag there. It is filmed on a drone, and later on the particular Russian commander reports to the higher command that, okay, we took this village under control, I need my medal, reward, high rank, or whatever they say. And that is also why Russia has tremendous losses, because local commanders of Russia, it's a very rare case that they care about their soldiers. Well, there are some cases in Ukrainian army like that, but compared to the Russian army, there are almost none. So this attack indeed shown a success, a single soldier with some of the Soviet flag, but losses were tremendous for Russia. And next, they're gonna move only after compensating their losses. Moreover, you can see here that the Ukrainian army has a significant defense. Also, Ukraine is using those villages as defense lines. While here Russians try to pull through Ukrainian defense, it is now shown in a gray area, but I wonder if it definitely happened, if Russians broke through defense. I think not for now. But Russians may fly with their drones here, and also they use aviation. And if you check out the Deep State military map source, they don't have the recent update of the Russian movement. The last one was reported on 21st of February, so Russians moved towards Ulakli, then Ukraine also counterattacked in this village, so the movement of the Russian forces is definitely barely visible. They've exhausted their military potential during this winter campaign. On the other hand, withdrawal of the Ukrainian forces at the proper time in this particular area, for example in Dachne pocket, helped Ukraine to save equipment and the lives of the soldiers, so Ukrainian soldiers will be ready for the summer campaign. And about all of those talks that the war is coming to its end and there will be a ceasefire, guys, I would like ceasefire to happen today, because it is profitable for Ukraine. Russia wouldn't advance on the front lines in this case, but should we trust Russia? Are we sure that Russia wouldn't reinforce its army and attack Ukraine in the most unexpected time and place? That's why Zelensky and the Ukrainian government, they all say about robust security guarantees. Because without those 100%, it would be a second Minsk agreement or a third Minsk agreement, and there will be 100% moment with some of the Russian provocation where they will start a full-scale war once again. But actually, a ceasefire is a good option for Ukraine. Is it achievable? I don't think so. First of all, Russia doesn't want it. They want Ukraine, for example, to stop hitting their infrastructure in Russia, oil infrastructure. And yes, Ukraine is doing a great job. There are again some of the images with something burning in Russia. As it is reported, there was also a Russian oil refinery hit again. Well, not exactly this image, but it was hit, shown in a different video. And this video shows the Russian oil refinery. It's on fire in Tula region of the Russian Federation. Russia experienced significant issues with the Ukrainian drone strikes. The Russian Foreign Minister Lavrov even complained about it towards American side during the meeting in Saudi Arabia. But as you can see, Ukraine is unstoppable. Krasnodarsky Krai oil pump facility stopped its operation because of the Ukrainian drone strikes, the strikes performed by Ukrainian SBU, so Internal Security Service. They have their own separate programs where they use the long-range drones quite effectively, I would say. Usually they compete with the Ukrainian military intelligence service. Alright guys, we have the news from the polls from the German elections. It seems like alternate for Germany, alternate for Deutschland got 20%. It is already understandable that they will be out of the coalition. Scholz's party loses the election, so Union Party wins. Some of the polls have this result where AfD has even less than 20%. So the winner is CDU, CSU is clear for now. And yes, there will be a new chancellor in Germany, Chancellor Merz, who supports Ukraine a lot. Well, at least he says that he supports Ukraine, and probably Ukraine may obtain even towers, long-range missiles under his ruling. He will form coalition with Scholz's party and others, but AfD Nazis will not be there. So Elon Musk may put his chainsaw right into his ours. So yeah, absolutely great news from Germany, even though AfD got the second place, but they will not be taken in any sort of the coalition. They're just outcast party. It is an open pro-Russian party of extremists, I would call them even. If they had won, Germany could turn into second Hungary with Orban or something even worse. But luckily Germans made a proper choice. But you know what, this was shared today. It looks like the Conservative Party in Germany has won the very big and highly anticipated election. What kind of the Conservative Party he speaks about? I don't know what he is speaking about here, but new government of Germany will support Ukraine. I understand that someone types that for Donald Trump with the caps lock and everything, but it's a diagnosis. Trump needs to go to hospital. Without Elon Musk, AfD would obviously have less attention, but luckily they fact. So Germany said, no, you Nazi. Nevertheless, I think it's not over for those kind of pricks, and they'll try to get the power in the next elections. And Merz already said that the influence of the United States on German elections was significant, as well as Russian influence. So actually he accused a new White House administration, and he is right. Elon Musk and Trump's team did everything for AfD to win the elections, but it didn't happen. Trump's so-called ambassador for Middle East and a guy who appointed for Donald Trump also for negotiations with Russia, Steve Witkoff, he's not even official figure, just some sort of the businessman, friend of Trump. So he basically said today that they don't care who started this war, they want this war to be ended. Moreover, Ukraine was proposed to join NATO and maybe it provoked Russia. Moreover, he stated that the future peace deal should be based on Istanbul agreements and Ukraine should reduce its army. So everything what Russia says, everything what Putin demands from Ukraine, for Ukraine not to be in NATO, for Ukraine to be demilitarized, denazified and lose its territory. What denazified means no one knows, even a Russian leader. For them, this word means de-Ukrainization. So Steve Witkoff doesn't care. They have their own kind of the financial, I think, agreement between the United States and Russia, and they want to finish this war as soon as possible, and they don't care how it might end. They even agree for Ukraine to be demilitarized and, without any security guarantees, no one will resist Russian occupation in the future. So if that kind of the ceasefire happens, it's no-go for Ukraine, absolutely no-go. So Trump does everything to drown Ukraine, to put it to the Russian hands like that. And that's what Trump really does with the United States stock market. It is what's happening, and this is what happened before with Russian stock market. Now it's not that high, but still relatively it is growing. Probably Trump used different slogan for his election campaign. He should have said, "Make Russia great again." And guys, to mark a third year of this full-scale war, there are many of the meetings around the world, also in the United States of America. So my fellow Americans, thank you for supporting Ukraine. Well, actually the war with Russia continues for 11 years since the occupation of Crimea, but the full-scale war happens for 3 years already. There was a First World War, there was the famine and repressions organized by Soviets, there was the Second World War, which took away roughly 9 million of Ukrainians. Then repressions again, Chernobyl disaster, then finally independence, and here we have a new war. So do you really think that Ukrainians will say, okay, Trump wants us to surrender, so we surrender? No, it will not happen. And yeah, there was the big forum today in Kiev with many of the top Ukrainian officials, top managers, including Zelensky. They all say about their perspectives of how they see the end of this war or continuation of the war, because most agree that Putin doesn't want to over it. So yeah, I wouldn't quote everyone there, but it is understandable that Ukraine will continue to fight for its independence if needed. And any sort of the agreements between the United States and Russia they mainly do not influence the outcome of this war or any sort of the peace deal. The peace deal without Ukraine is not valid. And about the military production, well, actually, for the last year, Ukraine produced more of the artillery systems than entire Europe. But Ukraine is in lack of the capabilities to produce enough artillery shells, especially 155mm shells. So Ukraine needs capabilities of the United States for that, and also Europe, for example, Czech initiative. So I hope that with the new German government, Europe will have the boost to invest into its military, because as we see now, it's very important, it's crucial, both for Ukraine and European Union countries. And you know, guys, I'm very surprised that Ukraine produced more than 2 million of the drones the last year. So for this year, Zelensky promised even more. The goal for the last year was 1 million of the drones. Well, maybe volunteer drones were also counted into that, but the number is really huge. And as you already know, drones help a lot to deliver shells precisely towards Russian army. Some of the good news for Ukraine from Elon Musk, kind of the outstanding, I would say. Well, he says that Reuters and Associated Press, they are legacy news liars. This is false, that Starlink would be cancelled for Ukraine. No, it will not happen like that. But today on the general briefing to the press, Ukrainian military command already say that they are looking for alternates, and they already have alternative options for internet for Ukrainian armed forces. But Russians, well, they're in lack of those sophisticated tools. That's why they also rely on Starlink. Yes, Starlink's out there for Russians as well. Alright guys, here I cannot show you this video fully because there were some of the kaputted Russian soldiers. So it was the operation of the sabotage group of the Ukrainian army. They went deep into the Russian-controlled territory of Zaporizhia region, and they stormed the local command post of the Russian army, which is located underground. Our guys unalived some of the Russian officers. They filmed the video about it. Probably I'm gonna share it with some of them restrictions on my Telegram channel. Plus, as it is a report, they've captured a very important documents. And guys, this is 100% not fake, because you cannot fake unalived Russian soldiers. So it really shows a complexity and significance of Ukrainian sabotage operations deep in the Russian-controlled regions. And if we speak about the general losses for the single day, you can see how many of the vehicles Russia is losing compared to Ukraine. And still, you know, guys, Russia is oriented to get more ground. They send more of the forces. I don't see the intention of the Russian army to stop this war. Also, they continue to strike Ukrainian cities. For example, the last night it was one of the most massive Russian drone attack. They launched more than 200 of the drones. Most of those were intercepted by Ukrainian air defense, but many reached their targets. The targets that have nothing to do with military, but Russian side claims that they attacked just military, which is not true. So honestly, guys, I don't think that Donald Trump and Putin may agree on something. Those negotiations which are happening right now between them, they're just useless. We see it already. Only way to stop Russia in Ukraine is to punch it hard, and you may only do it by supporting Ukrainian army and Ukraine in general. Though I still hope that the new White House administration with Donald Trump will continue the military support of Ukraine. Well, there is tiny little chance for it, but mostly I think that Trump will just abandon Ukraine. He'll try to forget about this topic after realizing that he is unable to solve this issue in his own way. But anyways, guys, there will be Ukraine and Russia will finally collapse. And now, please don't forget to check my personal link, it's ground.news/Dennis, which you may find in the video description just below. It's the link for the Ground News, which is the constant sponsor of my channel, and they provide a really good product. Well, Ground News, I check them every morning. They're awesome. So guys, I wish you all a peaceful sky wherever you are, and have a great time.